Hello, everybody. My name is Shahin. I'm leading a search and recommendation team at Comcast. And today I will be talking about content discovery via voice interface on Comcast X1 platform. For those people who don't know, Comcast has traditionally been known as a cable company. And in the last 10, 15 years, the company has really evolved and transitioned into a media and technology company. Comcast owns a large portfolio of content, and a big portion of that came with the acquisition of NBC, one of the so-called big three TV networks in the US that happened a few years ago. And Comcast is also distributing content by offering monthly subscription plans. And Comcast customers, as part of the offering, they get access to this platform for entertainment platform, TV platform that is called X1. And, and they also receive this voice remote that comes with the X1 platform. So there is a microphone button on this voice remote. You can tap on it, ask for a name of a channel, and many other things, as you will see in this presentation. And the first version of this voice remote was launched in 2015. And currently, there are more than 20 million voice remotes in customers' homes. And in the first half of 2018, we received 3.5 billion voice queries on the voice remote. And over the years, this voice remote has really evolved to become a central part of the customer experience with a lot of Comcast products, and has been really game changers for the company as well as the users of this platform. So let's quickly overview this voice platform and how, end-to-end pipeline. We receive the voice command, it gets converted to text, it goes to natural language understanding, and we find the most relevant action to the command, and finally this gets executed on the setup box, and something will be rendered on the TV. With one example, let's see how relevance and user history can become important, crucial for finding the most relevant action. So inside this voice platform, when the query comes in, we have several NLP modules specializing at handling queries from specific domains, like TV domain, sports domain, customer care, home, controlling your Internet of Things devices. And when we receive the query, the domain selector assigns probability distributions to these NLP modules, and the ones with higher probability have to come back with an answer. And at the very end, when all the responses will come to the answer selector has really have to look into the context, time, user history to come up with the most relevant action. Let's see one example. So Chicago Fire is the name of a TV show. It's also the name of a sport team in US. And domain selector picks up the applicable domains, TV and sports, both equally relevant, and they both come back with the relevant answer, right? So in this case, the job of answer selector is really look into the history and come up, rank these relevant actions for every single user based on their history. So if you're based in Chicago, you're a fan of Chicago Fire, and the game is on, probably I can just tune you to the channel automatically and save you a few clicks, right? So this was a very short overview of how the voice system works. For the rest of this talk, I want to focus on the advantages that we get when we have the voice interface on this platform. So the first thing that probably comes to mind is the ease of use with the spoken language, right? It's just easier to say things than typing the query on the TV text input, character by character typing your query. This is probably more natural. You can just say things, right? And the second point is with the voice interface, we are essentially flattening the user interface. Every single item or action is only a single utterance away from you as the user. And with our visual interface, we shouldn't always determine how you as a user interact with our services and systems, right? And with the voice interface, we are allowing our users to communicate on their own terms, express what they are interested in on their own terms, right? And I want to refer to these combinations of these two advantages. I want to refer to this as the say it and see it experience. I will talk about this in more details with more specific examples, but before that, let me go over some of the challenges that come when you have the voice interface on your platform. So understanding the user intent and finding the most relevant action is going to be a lot more challenging. To begin with, there are many ways you can say the same thing. All the movies on HBO that are free to me is the same as free HBO movies. One can argue that, well, we can get these sort of variations also with the text input on the TV screen. But the average query length of the voice queries are significantly higher than the text queries. And the language of these voice queries are also tend to be more natural, closer to natural language. And another example is that when people try to even say the title of shows with the voice interface, they tend to be more casual. So there is a show called It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and a lot of people with the voice interface just say It's Always Sunny in Philly, because that's how they say it in a conversation. And so that comes a lot of challenge once you have, and of course you also have the ASR, like speech recognition could go wrong, especially when you have a new content, that could be problematic for you. And last but not the least, with the voice interface, you have the freedom as the user to say anything. But that makes it more difficult for the voice user to know what is the range of possible queries that the platform supports, right? So we need a mechanism to let our users know what this platform is capable of, and then that becomes a very interesting recommendation problem that I will talk about at the end of at the last part of this presentation. So let me go back to the sate and seed experience. Let's talk about one specific scenario. A lot of us in this room know about the discovery versus continuation problem when it comes to watching stuff, right? And some of us, we have been binge watching something for weeks, and the only reason that we are turning the TV on is only to continue to watch what we have been watching, right? And some of us have worked on building and developing these algorithms, recommendation systems to take into account the context, prior history, to show you that content that we think you might want to continue to watch, right? But still, it happens to us, it happens to me that when I want to turn on the TV, I keep my fingers crossed and really hope the algorithm is going to show me that content, right? And they sometimes fail. And when they fail, if you're still a little bit lucky, you want to, with scrolling down or up, you may see the content. If not, you really have to go to that TV text input and type in your query, right? Whereas when you have we have become so spoiled with the recommendation systems, that few seconds we feel like our precious time is going to waste. But with the voice interface, you're essentially one utterance away. You can just say the name of the show and get there, right? And in other words, you don't have to rely on a on a visual interface that is powered by imperfect recommendation systems, right? So let's move on from this particular scenario to something more broader. We used to have traditionally this limited set of metadata like titles, synopsis, and like high-level genres, subgenres associated with the content. And but with advances in machine learning, deep learning, computer vision, natural language processing, now we can process videos, closed captions, and potentially come up with so many different types of metadata. They are not human-curated metadata, and we have some confidence scores for what we compute. Now, what is the experience that, given that this vast amount of metadata is available to us, what is the user experience that we can create to facilitate the discovery and finding content on the platform? We can start with the visual interface. And we all know that there is only so much you can do with the visual interface powered by good recommendation system, right? At the end, you need a mechanism to allow the user to search for things. And when I say search, and often in these platforms, people do not search for the title or the genre tag information that you have. They often search for things that you don't have, and your search problem turns into a recommendation problem as well. So that aside, if you only have the visual interface, now you have the text input, and but that's not really convenient, as we talked about the previous example, right? And especially if you want to have a longer query and you want it to be more natural, have more natural language, that's not really feasible or convenient with the text input. So that's, I guess, the area that once you have the voice interface, this new interface to interact with the system can really help you. And why not just doubling down on that, improving that experience when you have the voice interface available to you to improve that sate and seed experience. And that's really what we have been trying to do in the last couple of years, going from finding the exact matches, like finding a name of the channel names, titles of the shows, to really enable our users to search for anything. It's a topic, it's a place, it's a name, it's a concept, all the way to describing the episode they want to watch, right? And these are the examples you see here all come from the logs and what people have used, like shows about home decorations, gardening, global warming, all the way to just describing the episode you want to watch. I mean, this is like one example, like movies about hiking. Hiking was not a metadata in our platform, so content were not tagged with hiking. But when the query comes in, we still want to enable the user to find related content to the query, right? I'm going to skip a couple of this example and go to this one that, this is currently enabled. You can, a lot of times you don't remember the title of your episode show, the episode that you like, but, you remember a line or something. You want to say the episode of Seinfeld where this happened. And this is what we currently have enabled our users to search, to describe and find the content they're looking for. And this is the area that we want to continue to make improvements to really allow our users to describe what they want to do and improve that say and see it experience. Now I want to switch gears to another topic related to the voice interface. You can also say aspect of the things. When we keep adding new features and functionalities to our voice platform, we really need a scalable, context-aware way of letting our users know what this platform is capable of, right? And this is becoming a really interesting recommendation problem. On one hand, you have the new users, and you want to let them know about so many existing features that your voice platform is capable of. And you also have the heavy users, and you want to let them know about the new features that you have added, that your platform currently supports, right? Currently, we have several ways to do this. We have tips on the TV screen. This is something when your setup box goes to a screensaver, you might see some of these messages on your screen. There is also a place on the menu on the platform that you can go and see some of these. The other way is to send these emails every now and then to people and let them know that these are the new features that the platform supports, right? But as you can imagine, neither of these two approaches is likely to be too effective. They are not as scalable. They are not context-aware. These are just one for everybody, right? And this is something that we have been working on recently to build a recommendation system that looks into who you are, where you are, what you have said, and to come up with suggestions of what you can try on this platform so that you can find things and discover things more easily. And with this feature, I guess the interplay between the visual interface and the voice interface will become very important. And by the way, this is not enabled for everybody yet, just a disclaimer, but so this is one example, but the results that you see are coming from the recommendation system. So you are on NBC channel, you're watching the channel, right? And I want to come up with these suggestions for you. Some of them are just the typical recommendations like other shows on NBC, but the one that I want to talk about for this particular example is the NBC On Demand. NBC's On Demand probably is one of the simplest query that our platform currently supports, which is outside the vocabulary of just the titles of the shows and names of the channels. But it's still, for a lot of users, they don't know that with such a simple query, NBC On Demand, they can get access to all the shows and movies that are available on demand from NBC. That might be their favorite channel, right? The other example is you're watching National Geographic. We can suggest you that you can try National Geographic documentaries, getting access to all the documentaries that are available from this channel. That might be interesting for you. One last example here from a sports domain. So Philadelphia Eagles, name of an American football team. You say it currently, you go to this page, and you get access to the upcoming games, schedule of upcoming games, some stats about Philadelphia Eagles. Now, if I can show you some suggestions, again, some of them are related just to typical recommendation, suggestions such as they were the champions of Super Bowl last year, so I can show you some videos about that from last year. But again, maybe more importantly, comments such as Eagles versus Patriots. This is, again, one of the simplest queries that our platform supports, but this is allowing our users to look into head-to-head stats between two games. And a lot of, especially new users, do not know about even simplest queries like that, right? And this is what we want to go with, coming up with these smart and context-aware set of recommendations. I talked about the voice interface for this X1 platform that is really transforming to become a platform for home, just beyond just the TV. And I talked about two specific content discovery features with voice interface. The say it and see it experience, enabling our users, allowing our users to communicate on their own terms what they are interested in. And the other aspect, you can also say feature, allowing our users to know what the platform is capable of. And if you think about it, this can, in the future, the interplay of these two will lead to some conversational content discovery that, from one aspect, you say things and you want to discover things, and we want to help you what else you can discover from that platform. Thank you very much. By the way, one minor thing. I intentionally didn't put any equations on these slides, but we also do deep learning. We also like math. But seriously, more importantly, we are working on a lot of interesting and challenging problems for content discovery via voice interface. So if you're interested to learn more or join our team, please come see me. Thank you.
Questions?
My name is Jay from Intuit, and thanks for the great talk. Based on the complexity of the model you described, I think that there might be multiple models deployed to perform this, the whole pipeline. So may I ask you, roughly the complexity of the model?
Yeah, I mean, there are two levels of complexity. One is the entire platform itself that I showed one slide that, the query comes in, speech recognition, NLP modules, all of that. But the content discovery features that I talked about are probably more specific about inside the natural language understanding module, right? That's where we have this semantic search experience, the recommendation. And then for each of these components, there is another level of complexities. For example, for the recommendation part, we have the collaborative filtering, what people have said, coming up with suggestions like that. And also, you want to also leverage the ontology of your voice platform, the actions that your platform supports. And that's another level of complexity that you have to combine this model in order to come up with those recommendations and suggestions.
Thank you. May I ask you one more? Okay. Just a quick question.
Yep.
So were you able to automate the context generation process? Or is it
generation or collection? Because the challenging part is you want to know the user history, where they are, what they have said recently. So that's, I guess, the engineering challenge that we have for deploying this recommendation system that I talked about at the last part. Did that answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Max Harper, University of Minnesota. I really enjoyed your talk. Thank you. I wonder if you've been thinking about at Comcast about what I think about as subjective queries. So a lot of your examples had to do with things that are known about content, like the Seinfeld episode and properties of the Seinfeld episode. But what if a user asks for, I want funny movies, or I'm looking for things with great acting? Have you started reasoning about how to answer those sorts of queries from a recommendation perspective?
Yeah, that's a good question. So aside from the Seinfeld example, a lot of those search queries, home decoration, things like that, these are not human curated, metadata. So these are the things that we semantically think are similar to what you have asked. But the question that you had is one level higher and more complex, that you want to look for concepts such as old movies, funny movies, right? And this is the area that we're actively working on to, we have still some of those human curated metadata that is sometimes really hard to replace, right? They are the best if you have it, right, for anything, but they're not as scalable. So what we are trying to do is to bridge a gap between all of this semantic information that we can extract from the content and those human curated metadata that we have. And maybe at some point still we need human in the loop, right, to come up with to handle those type of queries. Thank you.
Okay, last question.
Actually, I have a similar question, so I'm not going to ask it. You already gave me the answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's thank our speaker.
Thanks.